And what is going on, everyone? Thank you for watching another episode here every Sunday talking about tattoos, talking about tattoo machines. And today's episode is actually crafted by you guys. So this week we posted on social media, what do you guys want us to talk about? So this is exactly what this episode is going to be about. We're going to be pulling questions that you guys have left in the comments on Facebook, Instagram, and we're going to be also showcasing your comment here live. So let's begin with the very first comment right here. And let's see, can you guys hear me good? Let me know if this sound is okay. All right, so the very first is this question right here. Let's see. So this is from Mr. Hypnosil. I'm for Coils too. I know there was a great video about tuning coils for cartridges and more technical mechanical aspect, blah, blah, blah. So this person is talking about a video that I did a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago, probably a few months ago. I did it on Facebook. It's kind of like hard to find videos when you post them on Facebook, but that video was about tuning coil machines for cartridges. How to line with coil machines with cartridges, or how to use coil machines, period, for cartridges. So today I am going to give you guys a walk around about this topic because I have to move on to another 9 topics that you guys have mentioned. And again, this one was from, let's see right here, this thingy, from Mr. Hypnosil. So Mr. Hypnosil wants to know about coil machines. So let's actually bring the camera right here. And again, I am not going to be running the machine, but I am going to be telling you a couple of tips to tune your machine for coils. So the first thing that you guys have to do with a coil machine is ensure that you have either number 1, a fresh rear spring, or number 2, that you're willing to unbend the rear spring and basically bring it, I'm gonna zoom in right here, and basically bring it back to a straight stage. Why you want to do this? You want to do that because you're going to be using the tension of the cartridge to tune the machine. So we're going to rely on the tension of the cartridge to actually retract the armature bar, just like this spring is doing it. This is the reason why a lot of people are having problems lining with coil machines, because what happens is that if you don't compensate that tension, you basically have 2 rear spring fighting the electromagnetism of the coil. So for that reason, you're gonna actually unbend the real spring, just here. You're gonna unbend it, you're gonna leave it completely straight, and you're going to do this. I'm gonna show you right now. So you're gonna pop your dry bar first, your grip, could be disposable, could be whatever grip you're gonna be using for your tattoo, just like I have it right here, and then you're gonna put the cartridge, right? Right now, I don't have that Allen key right here, and I'm actually gonna do a video dedicated to this topic, so I'm not going to get too crazy, but just to give you the idea. So basically, this will be pretty much dead, and as you actually backtrack the armature, you are going to be utilizing the spring tension of the cartridge to actually retract the armature bar, and you're going to be tuning the machine that way. You're also going to probably not want to put rubber bands, or maybe if so, you're going to put a rubber band. So you basically are going to be tuning the machine like you'll be tuning a tattoo machine, but instead of relying on this tension, we're going to rely on that tension. Now, there could be a problem. There could be a problem that your cartridge has either too much compression or very little compression. So in those cases, what you're going to have to do is then compensate the rear spring tension to make sure that you have the cycle, the duty cycle that you're looking for. Okay, so if you're lying in a 47 duty cycle, you're going to have to try to achieve that by combining the spring tension of the cartridge and the spring tension of the rear spring. So that's an idea, and there's going to be a video coming up about that. So I want to move on to the next question. So let's see. The next question comes from Sick Waibai. He wants to talk about conventions, guest spot advertising, targeting the right crowd. So yes, and I saw another comment from him. So he wants us to talk about basically how to expose yourself out there, for what I am understanding. So look, listen, there is no magic recipe for getting the word out. It's just simply busting your ass and utilizing all the new technologies that we have available these days, all the social media channels, print channels, magazines, if you're still into that, and hit as many conventions as possible. But now, I just said hit as many conventions as possible, but be selective with the type of conventions you want, you want to be seen at. We got to be fair. Not every single convention these days is a great convention. A lot of conventions are more of a waste of money these days than actually productive. So be selective, talk to friends. If you haven't done a lot of conventions as a tattoo artist, it will be good to ask a friend, hey, which convention do you recommend and stuff like that. So I personally do selected conventions these days because there are so many conventions, and when you have way too many of something, the quality and the grade of the essence diminish a little bit. So that's why do your research. But in order to expose yourself, do a lot of live tattooing. People these days are enjoying live tattooing. I'm amazed myself. The other day I was tattooing. There were a bunch of tattoo artists watching that tattoo that is actually right here on Facebook. And a lot of people were asking questions, In my case, I build the equipment for you guys, but in your case, maybe another artist, wanting to know about something about your tattooing, or would want to know more about, the things that you do. Could be a customer, and live broadcasts actually have become so popular. It seems that the static image is not cutting it anymore. So you're gonna see also that Facebook and Instagram respond better to videos than actually to images. So with that said, try to put good content out there. People like to be informed. People like to be entertained. Take advantage of Google Ads. Take advantage, of any avenue of marketing that you could use to promote your service. But now, you can only achieve so much, if your art is really good. So the other thing is work hard on your art. Make sure that you have a solid portfolio, and the word of mouth is always going to be the best form of advertising. So make sure that you please as many customers as possible, and they can talk about a good experience from you. So that's that. Now let's move, and that one was by Sek Whitby. Let me know if I'm pronouncing your name right, because I know that you watch this all the time and I always don't know how to pronounce your name. So anyway, moving forward to the next person. The next question is lining with cartridges. That is actually, and this one comes from Devon Tattoo. So that is a question that we hear every day. People are wondering what's going on with cartridges, why lining with cartridges is not as easy as it was with standard needles. And there is actually something in there that has to do with adapting to a completely new, different mechanism, right? Not only a mechanism, but also adapting to different machines. A lot of people that before cartridges, they were either tattooing with coil machines or with rotary tattoo machines. So number one, if you come from the coil school, you're gonna face yourself with a transition because the balance of the machine is completely different. There are so many brands of cartridges. They all have different groupings, different needle diameters. There are a lot of things to consider, but the main thing about lining with cartridges is exactly the same thing as lining with standard needles. Get comfortable, great technique, and that's it. And try as many tattoos as possible. And again, I don't want to get technical here, so that's why I'm giving you this answer a little bit vague. But you as a professional tattoo artist, will be able to apply exactly the same thing that's working for you right now with cartridges. It's going to take you a little bit of time, and like I always say, start very slow and gradually increase the volts. That is the best advice that I can give you, because you may find yourself that the result, let's say tattooing before with rotaries and standard 9, it may not be exactly the same, and you may have to crank or either lower the volts. So that's why going low, you're never gonna come across the risk of overdoing it. So that is one of the things that I can tell you. Now the other thing is that with so many brands of cartridges, try as many cartridges as possible. There are so many brands right now. There are good brands and there are bad brands, and there are okay brands. So I find myself these days that there's not a single company that I like the entire line, and I find myself always trying new stuff. You know, if I see of something new, I hear about something new, I try it. A lot of companies right now are selling samples, so you don't have to commit to a large amount of cartridges. So try different samples, because there may be a cartridge that suits you and may not suit another tattoo artist. And right now they're concentrating also a lot of companies in the round, in the configuration, and the traditional cartridge for lining, the buck pin, the long taper, the medium taper. You know, we're starting to see a lot of that stuff. So try as many cartridges as possible, because probably you were used to, let's say, a long taper standard needle, and you know, you adjusted your technique to that and it worked really good. But now that you move to cartridges, you may be tattooing with those bullet taper type of needles that actually require a little bit more force, or maybe a different technique, or more voltage. So that's why, you know, get familiar with the cartridge, because not every single cartridge is going to be the same. That's why I said before, treat it as when you were experimenting with the needles that worked for you before. Treat it the same way. Start low, go higher. So that question was from Devin Tattoo. Now let's move forward to the fourth question. This is from Alisa Tattoo. She says, or he says, I hope it's a girl. The most important thing, if the machine motor gets damaged after liquid leaking inside through non-membrane cartridges like T-Tech, which this is why I use the direct. The most important things, yeah, because the actual header was like, what do you want us to talk about? So she's saying that she wants us to talk about the most important thing if the machine gets damaged after liquid. Okay, now, great question. This is Alisa Tattoo. So Alisa, if the machine gets damaged because of liquid, I mean, there is a way that you can refrain that from happening these days. It's called membrane cartridges. Cartridges with membrane, they actually are designed to stop that from happening. So if that is a problem, I consider that the smartest way to do is to actually go with cartridges that have membrane. Why are you going to put your machine, your equipment, yourself, you know, in that risk? Back then, we used to have only one brand with membrane, and then a bunch of brands with no membrane. Now, all companies have realized that, you know, membrane is the way to go, because nobody wants to cross-contaminate the tattoo machine. And myself, I tattoo with cartridges with no membrane. I didn't have a problem until I had a problem. And I'm going to tell you what was the problem I had. The problem I had is that it happened with the Sian. And it happened with the Sian because the Sian is kind of like a pen. And I was tattooing a customer, and I was tattooing the back of my customer, and all of a sudden he stood up, and I wanted to tattoo standing up, and because of the weight of the machine, I went kind of like this, and you know, did something like that without thinking. You know, gravity is gonna take a toll right here. And yes, I did get a little bit of angst. Simple. I'm gonna show you how to clean this machine, and that's actually another question that's coming up. But since that day, that's it. I killed all cartridges with no membrane. Now I use only cartridges with membrane, and I never had a single issue by doing so. Now, that does not refrain you from cross-contaminating the cartridge. Remember that you're going to be grabbing the cartridge with your fingertips. You're gonna be introducing it in your tattoo machine, and hey, you're gonna get some crap inside. So remember, you have to sterilize your tube, you know, and that's that. Now let's move on with, and that was Alisa Tattoo. Now, let's move on with the fifth question. Yes, this is from J3RK Bag. I don't know. Anyway, those names. So he wants us to talk about tattooing traditional with your rotary, especially the Sian. Okay, that is a pretty good question. J3RK Bag. Again, you know, tattooing with the Sian is no different than tattooing with any other tattoo machine. Probably all of us started, or most of us that have been tattooing for a while started with coil machines, transitioned to rotary tattoo machines. We all found ourselves trying to adapt to that machine, and for me it was just a matter of a couple of tattoos. And I'm going to tell you the truth. When I designed the very first Spectra Halo, I actually couldn't tattoo 100% with rotary tattoo machines. And it took me like about maybe 15 tattoos until I got really comfortable with the machine. And one of the things that I did is actually forget for a while about coil machines. and actually retrain my brain and allow myself to learn, you know, a new equipment. And that's it. With the Sian, it's going to be exactly the same. Just to give you an example, my chamber is using the Sian, and he's blasting 14 round single pass with no problem. Sam Clark, for example, from Australia, is also blasting thick liner with the Sian. It's just a matter of getting used to it. I mean, one thing is that probably you're going to want to increase the volts of your power supply. And again, you know, the usual techniques are going to apply for lining. Just allow yourself to find the right point for lining. And again, you know, start slow and increase the voltage gradually, just like I mentioned before. That is the best way to actually find the sweet spot for anything that you want to do with any tattoo machine. So that one was from J3RK Bag. So moving forward with the next question. This is from Cuba Tattoo _DBT. My Halo 2 gets hot while I'm working and it stops eventually. Talk about those problems. Okay, we gotta talk about problems here too. You know, not everything is actually fun. Now, when a machine heats up, we have something going on. Most likely we have friction. Most likely we have something that's not properly aligned. Most likely we did something for the machine to start heating up. Machines from the get-go, they don't heat up, and when we ship the machine, we make sure that we run the machine through a sequence of tests. So now, I have a Spectra Halo 2 right here, and I am going to show you a couple of tips that may save you from your machine from getting actually hot. And this is from Cuba Tattoo, so let's do it right now. Okay, so I have the Spectra Halo right here. Now, you guys know that the Spectra Halo doesn't require any grommet or any rubber band right here. We have designed this system with a needle stabilizer right here and the armature clip that self-stabilizes the needle. Now, it is very, very, very important that you guys do not bend this needle. Why? Because if you bend the needle, what's going to happen is that you are going to be putting way too much needle tension towards the slider. So now the slider is going to glide this way, while the pressure of the needle is actually pushing the slider downwards, creating additional friction. And I've seen that happening many, many times with people, you know, because they think that they still have to bend the needle. And something so simple as unbending your needle, and the problem is solved. As you guys can see right here, you always want to get this needle unbent, and the needle should ride about the center of the vise. You see that this needle is right in the center. This is the right thing to do. Now, the second thing to do is actually pop a grip. If you're tattooing with, you know, cartridges or standard needle, pop a grip and actually remove the motor. Okay, remove the motor and push the slider. Okay, the slider should return. If the slider returns, you know, to its original position, then obviously we don't have any friction there because the spring has enough force to push the slider back. Now, put the motor and run the machine with your stray needle. If the machine runs and you don't see the amps spiking up, then you have no problem and you have solved your issue by simply putting the needle straight. Now, another thing that could happen is that because the Spectra Halo ships or used to ship sometime with oil, a lot of people over lubricate the machine. So if you over lubricate the machine, and again, gravity is going to cause the oil to actually travel all the way down to the motor, into the brushes, and actually start creating a lot of friction and misfiring of the contact of the brushes in the motor. So those are some of the things, the most common things that I see happening sometimes when someone said my machine heats up. It's either oil or either the armature bar is super bent. And again, that's not the only thing that could be happening, but you know, try that as the first tip, you know, to troubleshoot your machine. Another thing, if you think that you have to add a little bit of tension instead of, for example, with standard needles, instead of like bending the armature bar, only bend the needle stack, but always make sure that your machine, let's do it again. make sure that your machine returns back to its position. Now, if it's jammed there, you may have some dirt or particles, or I don't know, even like some dust buildup inside the machine could also cause that. This machine has very tight tolerances, but this is so simple to fix by simply, undoing the contact screw and cleaning the machine from the inside. So that is that question, and that question was coming from, let's see right here, from Cuban Tattoo _DBT. Now let's move forward to, where was it? Cuban Tattoo, was that one? Yeah, that was Cuban Tattoo. Now let's move forward to the next question from Worship Slavery. Wow. Talk about hard cartridge needle wiggle, because there is no rubber band. No one talks about that. Even blah, blah, blah. He mentioned a brand, so I cut the comment right there. This is Worship Slavery. That's not a nice name, by the way. But anyways, that's the screen name. So, why needles wiggle? Well, I mean, basically every single needle that wiggles, I find that there is a flaw in the design of the cartridge. A lot of needles have the problem, especially liners tend to do that more than magnums. And for the simple fact that the liner is round and there's more room to move, where magnums are usually clamped from the sides, and there is less room to a needle to do this. Again, try different brands, and there is nothing that you could do to a needle to stop the wiggling, unless we're talking about a magnum. And let me see if I can find one right here. I should have had that needle right. Oh, here we go. This is one of the reasons why I like these needles right here, the Sian needles, is because if I see that the needle kind of like flaps a little bit up and down, what I do is I simply remove, see, and I've done it to this one. I simply remove the tip and bend the needle stack downwards a little bit. See, this is loose. So I bend it a little bit down, and once I install the tip again, and you gotta be really careful because you can ruin the needle if you don't watch what you're doing. And once you pop the tip again, now the needle has a little bit of downward tension, and that seems to work really, really good for me. Sometimes I even do that with liners, but I do not recommend doing it, because if the liner tends to spin, then you're gonna have another problem. I only do it with liners from this brand. What else? Needles that don't wiggle, I don't know, man. I think they all have a certain point, some wiggling in some configuration. Again, it will be a matter of trying out needles and see what works best for you. If you run the machine super fast, you can have a problem, or if you have a machine that has a bar that is not constrained, can also tend to make the needle wiggle. So it's not only a problem with the needle, now that I'm thinking, it's also a problem with the machine. If you have, for example, let me show you right here. This is a great example. So for example, most direct drives, most direct drives actually have an elliptical motion that translates into reciprocal motion. So if there is no way to constrain that motion, either by constraining the dry bar in the grip or having some sort of tension, you're gonna come across that problem. This is not a problem in this machine because this machine has a built-in tensioner, so you can actually stabilize the dry bar. But most tattoo machines out there that have an elliptical motion, if the dry bar is not stabilized by some method, you can also have vibration in the needle, because there may be a little bit of that residual oscillation translated into the tip of the needle, and that could cause the vibration of the needle. So make sure you check that out, guys. And if you have one of those machines, I don't want to mention any brand, but if you have any of those machines that has that cam system, try putting a rubber band in between the dry bar or whatever mechanism, if that allows you, because it all has to do with the way the machine is designed. Don't put too much pressure neither, because again, like I mentioned before, you may start causing the machine to heat up and stuff like that. So every time you do something, do it like gradually, never go all the way. So that one was from Worship Slavery. What a bad boy. There you go. Okay, now we have another question right here, and this is question number 7. And it says, not question, I'm actually suggest the topic. You have a video about how to bag the Sian. How about a video showing how to clean the Sian, especially because the needle driver or plunger is built in? Would be very useful video. Thanks. And then someone else, so this is kind of like two questions in one. And then someone else says about cleaning and autoclaving will be interesting. All right, so this question comes from Mechanical Freedom Tattoos. So awesome topic. So how do you clean the Sian? A lot of people are asking, how do you clean the Sian? What happens if the dry pin touches the cartridge? And right now I have right here the Sian S. This is my wife's machine, if you all are familiar with this machine, but this is not the version for tattooing. This is the version for micropigmentation. So I am going to remove the grip, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go close up and show you guys. So right here we have the driving element, we call it the dry pin, and like I mentioned before, sometimes you know, even though you have a membrane here, that doesn't mean that you're done and that you can start tattooing without doing anything to your machine. So this is a really great question, and I'm gonna show you guys how to clean this machine. It's very, very simple. So this guy right here is the give knob, okay? Usually you can remove it with your nail. There's a little groove right there where you just pry it out with your nail, boom, and it popped out. So now, not only I can clean the pin, but I can also sanitize this guy right here. So this, you would do whatever, you know, use whatever chemical sanitation product you may use to clean it. And then to clean the dry pin, what you're gonna do is, let me just remove this motor because sometimes it's really, really hard. I am going to remove the motor and I'm gonna show you how I do it. Okay, so sorry, I had to do that off camera, guys. So I have removed the motor right now, and what we are gonna be doing is there is a little thing right here that we're gonna be pressing, and once you press it, you can see how the dry bar or the dry pin protrudes. Again, you are going to extend it as much as possible, and you're gonna spray paper towel or whatever you wanna use to clean, or even sanitizing wipes, and you're gonna clean it thoroughly. You're gonna clean it thoroughly. You're gonna do exactly the same thing with this, and once you're done, you're going to make sure that you pop it off and check it that you have that little plate right there. Pop your motor back on, and that's it. Now, the next person, which it was Tattoo Studio, says about cleaning autoclaving will be interesting. Okay, the next thing that you have to do is you have to sanitize the grip, okay? You're not done by simply using, like I mentioned before, cartridges with membrane. You have to clean the machine, and no matter which tattoo machine you're gonna be using, you are going to have to do that because the membrane does not refrain from your hands touching the cartridge and contaminating the actual locking mechanism of the grip. So this is what I'm gonna show you right now, guys. So check it out. So the first thing that I would do is actually spray the surface of the grip or autoclave it completely. But even if I'm gonna be autoclaving the grip, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna clean it first. So, and let me rephrase, do not ultrasonic wash any of the parts of this machine. Ultrasonic washers destroy the material. So ultrasonic washers are only good for stainless steel or surgical steel materials, not for aluminum. So what you're gonna be doing is, again, you know, Metaside, Cavicide, whatever you use, clean this thoroughly, and then you're gonna actually clean the inside. And to clean the inside, you can actually spray inside the grip directly, and then, you know, doing like this and cleaning the interior, and that's it. And also, you know, you could clean it from the other side, and you're done. Now, if I'm gonna be autoclaving my grip, I am going to go through my cleaning process just like you would clean any grip, and then I will bag it and put in the autoclave, making sure that my autoclave works. And there is a little debate these days with autoclaves, and you know, we had this conversation a couple of times because a lot of people, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they say, oh no, I have to autoclave my stuff. And then I ask them, when was the last time you checked your autoclave that was working fine? It was a couple of months ago. Okay, a couple of months ago is actually way too long to wait to check the autoclave. And unless you have a super expensive autoclave, and most shops don't have super expensive autoclaves. I mean, at least my shop, you know, we had an autoclave that cost us, what was that, Richter, a couple of thousands of dollars, but the good ones, they cost, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. So I know that not a lot of shops have those top of the line autoclaves. But if you don't have one of those, you know, there are more chances of that autoclave to actually go bad. Usually the retainer starts leaking steam, and you know there are a lot of problems with lower end autoclaves. So the only way for you to ensure that your autoclave is working is doing frequent sport tests. And I'm going to tell you one thing: we have a couple of autoclaves at FK Irons, and autoclaves that we use for you know, testing the materials, making sure that things don't deflect. We have a couple. So at some point, we took an autoclave to be repaired. We changed the gasket. We changed a bunch of stuff. And then something else went wrong with the autoclave. And we got one of the test boards. Hey, let me test this autoclave and see if you know, if the retainer, it's pretty old. So we put the sport test there, sent it to a lab, and yes, it did fail. So we're not using the autoclave to actually tattoo people. But I was able to manage to realize that, you know, something happened with the autoclave and it failed. And it was, again, the gasket that actually worn off, and, you know, that's it. So keep in mind, those solutions for sanitation, they are not sterilizations, but they are killing MRSA, they are killing HIV, they are killing all strains of hepatitis, they are killing funguses. So it's basically what they use a hospital to kill everything else that cannot be sterilized, like a bed, like an armrest, like a lamp, and stuff like that. So they're FDA approved, a lot of them, and they have clear instruction of how to use it. And as long as you apply the solution the way the manufacturer suggests, and as long as you use while the product is reactive, because those products, once you open, they have a span life only that they're gonna work. You're gonna be okay. Okay, so that is my take on that. And since the autoclave failure, you know, I've been recommending, guys, might as well just crack a bottle of Cave Slide, brand new, and you know that you are going to get results right there. So sorry that I took too long to respond this one, but I'm pretty passionate about that topic. This one was from Mechanical Freedom Tattoos that was asking how to clean the tip of the Sian, and then from Tattoo Studio that wanted to know how to autoclave the grip of the machine. And then the rest of the machine, you know, you will as well spray it and clean it all the way around. And of course, you know, you have to bag your gear. That is the first barrier against cross-contamination. Always bag your gear, and even coil machines, you know, always being paranoid about the topic. Bagging every single coil machine used to take me an hour and a quarter to actually set up back in the day. So yeah, make sure that you do that and then go through the sanitation procedures. And probably we're gonna do some videos to show you what works best for me and how I do some things. But again, we don't wanna get too technical because we don't wanna cater to the untrained artists wanna be and thinking that about watching this video they're gonna learn and start tattooing. So this is the reason why I'm a little bit vague with the topic. Okay, moving forward to the next question. This is not question, again, question. This is suggestion for topic. So this one says, for you, the difference between coil and the new Sian. Okay, so he wants us to talk about the difference between coils and the new Sian, and this is Izar Lucky Sailor. Izar Lucky Sailor. I guess I'm pronouncing his name right. So the difference between the Sian and coil, well, I mean, we have a lot of difference right there. We have weight difference, we have balance difference, we have vibration difference, we have sound difference, we have needle difference. You know, coils were designed for standard needles. Yes, you can tattoo with cartridges, but this one, the Sian, you can only tattoo with cartridge needles. So, I mean, there's a huge, huge difference. Now, is that difference going to make me a better or worse tattoo artist? No, it's not. You know, the machine, coil machine, and pen machine, and rotary machine, whatever machine you call it, is doing this. All machines do that. And some ones do it in a fancier way than others, but they all do that. Ultimately, the machine that's right for you is the machine that you feel comfortable with. And sometimes it's the machine that you have, and sometimes it's the machine that you can't afford. So don't go crazy thinking that wow, this machine is going to make me such a great tattoo artist overnight, because that's not the case. And again, you know, I could be selling you crap here and telling you yes, but I'm telling you the truth. Tattoo with what you have, with what you can afford. It's very important to properly maintain the machine more than getting new machines. It's more important perfecting the technique than getting new machine. It's more important to pay the bills than, you know, get a new machine. So once you have all that covered, then yes, you know, try new machines. I myself, you know, when I started tattooing, I had one machine that I tattooed for years. You know, when I started tattooing in Argentina, I tattooed for years. And I have to actually, in the middle of a tattoo, break the setup, put a shader that I have to solder first, and one machine. So I have to, you know, line the work and then build the machine again, put the bag, and start tattooing over. And if I wanted to go back to lining, I would have to take the grip, take the needle, and do it. And I did it for a while because it was the only thing that I was able to afford at that time, and it was a national tattoo machine. And then I got a Spalding Roger, and then things were a little bit easier for me. But I tattooed like that, and to a point, that became almost normal for me for a while. And again, now I have way too many machines. And again, just tattoo what you can and perfect it, you know, perfect the gear that you own. What else? This one is the last one. Anna Banana Inc. used to talk about what it took you to get to where you are. And the reason why I chose to speak about this is because it's not the first time that someone asked me, how did you start FK Irons? How all of a sudden you know, design all these tattoo machines? So I'm gonna take a little bit of my time and try to explain to you what I have done and how I'm doing what I'm doing today. And this is from Anna Banana Inc. So Anna Banana and all of you, what it took me to get here. Well, first of all, like I mentioned before, struggling with gear. So in Argentina, I had one machine, but the very first machine I got was a machine that I built, and it was completely crap. And yes, I tattooed with it. It wasn't perfect, and yes, that machine did not give me good results. And always, you know, wanting to, you know, wondering, what about if I build a machine? Could I build a better machine? Even though I had no freaking clue about how to build a tattoo machine. So looking at other machines, I started putting things together. And I got to a point, that was when I moved to the United States, 1997, that, you know, I was a little more confident building tattoo machines. I built machines for a couple of friends back then. And I built a machine for myself, you know. I wasn't tattooing every day, so I built a machine for myself, you know, and I was tattooing here and there, doing guest spots, going at conventions. And I was tattooing with steel machines, you know, tattoo with steel machines. That was the only thing I knew. And was when I started tattooing more often and doing more shows and traveling and tattooing more heavily, that I realized that, you know, for me, steel machines weren't suitable. You know, I was getting a lot of pain after 5 hours, and I was wondering if I could do a machine a little bit lighter. So I started experimenting with a bunch of things, you know, metals and stuff like that, cutting, chopping, welding, and until I came across this guy that used to make parts for motorcycles, and I asked him, could you make me this machine in aluminum? So I drafted on a piece of paper all the views of the machine, and we did one machine, and all of a sudden we actually came up with 4 machines. Before that, I was actually making them in steel using CNC. I was going to the same shop. I almost skipped that step. But then the guy told me, hey, listen, you know, I'm breaking a lot of tools, blah, 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 so why don't we make them out of aluminum? Because I was telling him, how can we make him lighter in steel? So he stirred me towards, why don't we make him out of aluminum? And I told him, you know, aluminum's a little bit, machines, there are not a lot of machines made out of aluminum, and the ones that I've heard of, they vibrate, so started working on perfecting that. Then put one machine in one hand, another machine in another hand, you know, word of mouth. At that time, there was no MySpace, no Facebook, so it was forums. Nick Baxter was one of the first artists tattooing with my machines, with my handmade machines. Lucas Natalini, I remember Jeff Mansolf, I remember Sean Z, who else? Even Guy Atchison. So those guys started talking, and people were wanting to know who made those machines, and I was making machines for this guy, for that guy. Then Icon wanted to distribute the machines, and from there, I just constantly didn't stop a day without thinking about how to perfect tattoo machines. And of course, it was a very rough career because I was relying on a shop. I started first, you know, hand sawing and welding. Now we have our own shop, our own CNC machines, and again, investing and reinvesting. Very little hours of sleep. I finally have to, you know, I sold my shops. I had 3 tattoo shops, sold my shops to dedicate myself 100% at FK Irons because, You could do, you could do both things mediocre, or you could do something right. And that's when I decided to take this full force, and we established our own CNC shop, and we started with one CNC machine. And again, it's a long story. Probably I'd do another video, but that's how I did. Bottom line, determination, never giving up, not taking failure as an option, and not giving a shit about what haters had to say. So that's it, and that's what I've been doing, and how I live by every single day. So these have been the 10 topics that you wanted me to talk about, and I'm liking this, so probably we're gonna be doing this more often. This last one was from Anna Banana Inc. Thank you to all of you. Let me actually go through all of them. So the first one was from Mr. Hypnoso. Then the second one was that one. Third one, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th. So now we are going to jump to the chat and see what's going on there, because I see a lot of comments. All right, aún no se sabe las características del espectro de Jexy en español. Ok, people en español, videos en español, coming soon, muy pronto. All right, so we have people from all over the world. Houston, Texas. What's up, Houston? How you doing? People from Iowa. What kind of brand of cartridges do you use? I use so many brands. Like, for example, right now I have right here T-Tech. T-Tech. Sian. I have Legacy. I have FYT. I have a bunch of cartridges, A lot of people send me cartridges, and I also buy a lot of stuff, new stuff, just to try and see, see if there's anything new out there. Corpus Christi, Texas, how you doing? I really enjoy watching other professionals tattooing as well. We all have our own techniques. Okay. Someone is saying that he uses Killer Ink cartridges. Shout out to Killer Ink, our distributor right there in Killer Ink. By the way, this weekend upcoming now, we're going to be in Mexico at Viva La Tinta Tattoo Show. So we're going to be there, guys, with our distributor Reyes Tattoo Supply. So everyone in Mexico, we'll see you guys this weekend. Okay. Some people asking about technical questions. All right, so we've been live for 41. Okay, we've been live for a while. Anyway, I would love to answer all the questions. There are way too many, guys. So I just wanted to give you the option, the choice, the shout out of your comments right here. So today's episode, 10 topics that you wanted me to talk about. Okay, just deliver. Just keep it coming, guys. And before I finish, I knew I was forgetting something. Before I finish, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, tomorrow Monday, October 30th, 2017, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be revealing and announcing the 2 winners of the 2 Spectra Signs. So this is going to happen tomorrow right here on YouTube Live, directly from FKI's headquarters. So guys, this is it for today. Have a good night. Happy Sunday, everyone.